Hey, how's it going, folks? Josh Calhoun here again, and as you can see, I am in the middle of giving the box store enclosure a great big old facelift, and I'm going to take you guys along for the ride and show you guys my personal tips and tricks on how to set up a halfway decent outdoor box store enclosure. So, grab your popcorn, grab your favorite drink, and let's have some fun here, shall we? So before you set up the habitat for your turtle enclosure, one thing you need to think about is what kind of material am I going to use to make the fencing and the perimeter. Most people, including myself, are going to recommend you have some sort of solid wall structure. Turtles have this weird sense of logic. If they can see out, they're going to try to get out. And obviously that's no good. So doing a solid structure like, say, lumber or cinder block, that's going to keep that visual barrier at bay, and they're not going to be driving themselves nutty trying to get to greener grass. Now, I was on a budget when I first built this enclosure, and wiring at the time was cheaper. So, needless to say, I know this from experience as well. But one of the things I've done is I literally just got some of these shingles just lying around my house, and let me show you how difficult it is to use these things. Enough said. Now, if you're not like me, you don't have any shingles around your house, you could use something as simple as, say, a particle board. Once again, any kind of lumber will work, even pressure treated. It's not going to be harmful to your animals whatsoever. Most of this enclosure is built out of, what was we're looking for here? Pressure treated lumber. Hasn't hurt my animals at all. So, that's all for you to think about. You can use lumber, you can use brick, you can use cinder block, as I said earlier. You could probably even use PVC board if you really wanted to. Not only do you need to worry about your animals trying to climb out of the enclosure, you also have to make sure they're not able to dig underneath the enclosure and out to freedom that way as well. So, an underground barricade for a lot of box turtle species is highly recommended. And once again, it can be pretty simple. All I did, once again, is I just buried some of these shingles I got lying around my house. And this one goes about 11 inches deep, I believe. And I got some brick around here that goes about 8 inches deep. Eastern box turtles aren't really well known for digging huge burrows or anything like that. They'll dig, but they don't dig as successfully as, say, a Russian tortoise would. So, if you go about 5 inches or so, you should be just fine. If you got other species like, say, desert box turtles or ornates, I believe they are a little more known for digging more elaborate tunnels. So you may want to go a little bit deeper with those species. Water is perhaps one of the most important things you can add to any box turtle enclosure. Thankfully, it's also a pretty easy thing to provide as well. You can do anything by just simply going to the local hardware store and getting a plant saucer and filling that up with water. You know, that one that fills up with water automatically if you add too much water to your plants. Yeah, that one. Very easy to use. Trust me, I'm using one in my indoor enclosure right now. It works a charm. However, if you've been watching my videos long enough, you also know that I absolutely love using just an old-fashioned paint tray that you get from the exact same store. Most of the time, I'm using a fairly small one in here. However, since box turtles are a member of the pond turtle family, I decided to have a little bit of fun this year, and I got myself an even bigger one. This one's a bit wider, and it's also deeper, so that way these animals could even swim if they decided to. Unfortunately, the water system that I got for mine is a little bit slicker than I thought it was going to be. So I just had a little bit of fun, and I decorated the interior with it, and all I did was just use random stuff around my house. I had some aquarium gravel in here that I just super glued to the bottom. I also had some coconut fiber, same thing. And then I finished it off with just a couple random sticks. Once again, it's experimental. I'll let you know how it goes. So, if you're done soaking all this in, pun very much intended, allow me to show you how I built this monstrosity right behind me, and most importantly, why did I do that? So this monstrosity that I am talking about is the new hiding place for the box turtles in this enclosure. All I did is I found a piece of corrugated drainage pipe in my neighborhood just sitting out on the curb. And as you can see here, I cut it into the desirable size. And now I'm just taking a few pieces of wood and bark that I harvested from a random tree stump in my backyard, and I'm attempting to make this look like a fallen log. Now, I did this for two reasons in particular. One, because I wanted it to look cool, and two, and predominantly, I wanted to give the box turtles an opportunity to climb on top of this fallen log as well. It's one of my little tricks I like to do to add additional surface area to the enclosure. The turtles can walk inside the hide in order to get out of the elements, and the box turtles can also climb on top of it as well. It also gives them both a mental as well as physical enrichment. It goes without saying that this part is optional. You don't have to disguise your hiding places at all. You can simply take your pipe and put it in a designated area that you want it to be and call it a day. Another optional thing is even using a pipe to begin with. For example, a very common thing that people use in their enclosures, I'll be using this as well, are bushy plants and leaf litter. Something else you can even do is go to the local pet store and get a large half log. Real or plastic will do the trick. I've even seen people take a small trash bin, toss it onto the ground, and then chuck dirt on top of it. Seriously, it can be that easy. On the other side of this fake log, I'm simply going to backfill with soil. While this is going to serve multiple functions in the long run, the main idea here was to provide an elevated nesting site for my two female box turtles. In the previous enclosure design, Numbers would actually climb on top of the main hide and she would nest there, likely because the soil there always remained soft and diggable, and it also ensured, since it was so high up, that there was no flooding that would occur that would kill her eggs. With this in mind, I decided to provide a similar nesting site here, even though both turtles can lay their eggs anywhere in this enclosure pretty much, should they see it fit. Once I got my desired look, I filled in the gaps and cracks with expanding foam. This locks everything into place and prevents the turtles from being able to jostle pieces off. If you want to hide the expanding foam, you're in luck. It's pretty easy to do. While this stuff is still wet, you press in whatever materials you got around you. In this case, I have a few pieces of bark and wood. You can also use soil, rocks, sticks, cocoa fiber, you name it. Don't panic if you can still see some of it after it's dried. You can use the same technique to disguise it further using silicone and even some different types of super glue.
Now here comes my favorite part. Time for the hardscape and the plants.
There's a large variety of hardscaping ideas that you can use. One of my favorite go-tos are large stepping stones. I like using these for several reasons in box turtle enclosures. For one, you can stand on top of them and then jump around on them like a crazy person. Okay, all jokes aside, I prefer to walk on top of these over stepping onto the dirt so that way I don't compact it and reduce the turtle's ability to dig into the soil, root around in it, or even nest in it should they decide not to use the elevated nesting site that I made previously. I love feeding my box turtles on these stepping stones as well. As the animals feed, their beaks will rub up against the stone, naturally wearing them down and keep them at a healthy length. On top of all that, they also make great basking areas, especially on those cooler mornings. So here's a fun idea that I had. I am trying to replicate what I'm calling a root staircase. This is where rainwater would erode the soil and expose the tree roots underneath. And I'm not kidding, you can literally climb up these roots the same way you would a set of stairs, hence the name. The idea here was to create an uneven terrain within the enclosure, much like how Galapagos Taurus owners will add rocks, branches, and hills in their enclosures in order to require the animals to negotiate these obstacles and help maintain a healthy posture. Not to mention, many times when I've seen wild box turtles, they were often within spitting distance of a hill, assuming they weren't on the hill to begin with. So, if wild box turtles are exposed to uneven terrain like hills and valleys, why shouldn't mine then be? Plants are a favorite hiding place for many box turtles, including my own.
Something I like to do when I'm using plants as a hiding area is I'll take members of the same species, put them pretty close together, but there's still social distancing, if you know what I mean. The idea on that is it allows spaces for the box turtles to get in between these plants and feel secure that way, get out of the elements, get out of the heat, or just get away from each other for that matter. I'm using asters in this example. However, one of my plants of choice for this particular technique is the common violet, or the English violet as I like to call it. It is pretty much a weed where I come from, and so you can literally go into your backyard and get as much of the stuff as you want, and it's pretty much free. Hostas are another brilliant idea for a box turtle enclosure. These plants, once they're mature, will create a lot of shade that these turtles absolutely love. Not to mention, they are stupid hardy as well. They'll put up with whatever kind of beating the box turtles can dish out to them, and I've literally seen these plants go through negative 15-degree weather, that's in Fahrenheit by the way, and then come back the following spring even better than ever. Whatever kind of plants you decide to put into your enclosure, make sure that A, they're non-toxic, and B, can provide a large amount of shade for your turtles. Keep in mind, box turtles prefer dappled lighting and are not the biggest fans being out in the sun all day long. So this is what the box turtle enclosure used to look like just before it tore it down, and this here is the new version. There's only one more thing I need to add to this enclosure, or technically 3 more things.
While I consider this enclosure ready for its inhabitants, I hesitate to call it complete. Knowing me, I want to add more plants to this enclosure, add more leaf litter to this enclosure, and I also want to further disguise the foam that is still exposed on the half log. When it comes to what to put into your enclosure, this is what I consider to be absolute. For one, adding items such as leaf litter or pine needles is an easy way to add both enrichment as well as security. They can hide in it, they can forage in it, they can even bury themselves under it in order to escape unfavorable weather. Additional hiding areas, in the form of either plants or solid structures like a fallen log, should also be used. These will provide security, additional shady areas to beat the heat, and even visual barriers that your turtles will appreciate, even if you're housing just a single one. It can be argued that water is the most important thing you can put into a box turtle's enclosure. Not only do they need the water for drinking, but they also need it for soaking and even a little bit of swimming. Hydration is very important for this species, and if you do not provide it, their health tends to suffer for it. It doesn't matter if it is a small terracotta saucer, a paint tray like I have here, or even a small shallow pond, as long as the animals can get into the water and out of the water easy. If you can meet those standards, then don't be afraid to experiment. I am also not going to call this a complete how-to video. I barely discussed anything about escape-proofing the enclosure, and I said nothing about how to predator-proof the enclosure, how big to make the enclosure, or even where to put your enclosure outside. If you want to see a video on that, let me know in the comments below, would you?
So until next time, remember this fact. Jesus loves you, and your scaly things. Take care, guys.
It's not